Hey, Pawn family, welcome to an incredible show for you today. My good friend Vito from PHP, Pawnbrokers, helping pawnbrokers, and I, we are going to bring you an incredible speaker who Vito brought to my attention that I think is going to make a big difference in the way that we see things. Vito, if you want to kind of talk about how you got to know Ryan before I give everybody the big bio, and then we'll bring Ryan on board so we can have a conversation.
Sure. I met Mr. Patel, Ryan, probably about 15 years ago, and watched him move up through the ranks, watched him while he was at college, grad school, and then move on and do the incredible things he's done. And he's real good friends with my brother-in-law, who is also involved in world economics and supply chains. And when I've listened to their conversations, fly on the wall and listen to their conversations, I always thought that it'd be interesting for him to take a look at our industry and then break it down for me in how world economics and the pawn industry intersect, relate. And so this has been something that I've been hoping to do for a long time. So I'm really excited to have him here and to have you ask him some really interesting questions, and let's see how they do relate.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know Ryan Patel, he is a world-renowned go-to authority on global business, political economy, and corporate governance. He's an expert at scaling businesses as well, if the first line wasn't enough. He's worked for startups to public traded companies, deep knowledge in strategic global market development, and so much more. And we had a conversation with him last week, and just the brilliance of what he brought to the table is going to be extremely relevant for the pawn industry today. He's a contributor at CNN, BBC, and Fox News, The Hill, Yahoo Finance, and so many more of these news channels that we all watch. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Pawn Leaders and Pawnbrokers Helping Pawnbrokers show. This is Ryan Patel.
Hi, I'm Ryan Patel. I'm a senior fellow and board director here at the Drucker School of Management. You've seen me on CNN, Fox Business, BBC, breaking down the latest current affairs from hurricane coverages to, data protection to Apple becoming a $2 trillion company. But guess what? We're gonna do it here for the students now. It's my pleasure to announce I'm teaching a new course here at the Claremont Graduate University, Global Leadership. It's a transdisciplinary approach. No matter your background, you don't need a business background. Actually, we're gonna be talking about all industries because every industry that you touch, from public health to insurance to engineering, is global. You'll walk away from this course having your own personal brand plan, but also understanding the global initiatives in the world. Why don't you all come and join me?
So much for being here, my friend.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for you both for having me. It's great to be a part of this conversation. So excited.
Awesome. So we talked last week, and the first question that came about was pawnbrokers have this way of seeing the economy, right? I remember my father used to tell me, pawns are up, that means the economy is going down. When there's war and things are bad, pawn shops really flourish. And then there's what is the real economy. So let us know kind of what's happening after the pandemic, what you're seeing as the real economy, as opposed to the pawn economy.
Well, I wish, I come from that generation. I wish it was that simple. I wish it was just, one person does good and another person does bad. And in the past, it was maybe as cleanly as that's the case. But why I think it's not the case anymore, one word that I know everyone in this audience knows: disruption. The tech disruptions from consumers, it has happened much faster than any other, decade that we've been living at. If you just think about, and the pandemic has actually, whatever times you want to put in front of it, 10 times, 100 times, increased that because of the way everything shifted. Now, my question to everyone here is, do you think it's going to go backwards? No, it's going to only go forward and evolve further. And I think the economy and the places specifically in the pawn industry is going to go with that as well, right? And I think when you think about the economy, those, like you mentioned, if the economy's down, or, one side does great. I think the pawn economy actually has an opportunity to flourish when the economy's up, and because there is a larger consumer base that, we talked about that people don't even know, unfortunately, what the pawn industry actually does outside of your core consumers, and that now in the past it wasn't worth your time to go chase them. But what I'm saying now, because of the shared economy we live in, the gig economy we live in, and the global economy we live in, it's an opportunity because the second-hand nature of items isn't, is destigmatized. It's not, this myth of having to have everything new is gone, right? And sustainability, I know we'll talk about it later, is in. So now there's an opportunity to be able to make that narrative, Yuval. And, I'll stop there for that perspective. But the economy as a whole goes where the consumers want to go. And we've seen a big shift.
So is there, a lot of people are talking about, the downturn of the housing market, the downturn of the job market. Actually employers, it's hard for them to find employment because everyone's still making the unemployment checks and those types of things. Is it going to have that downturn? I mean, I'm not asking you to look into your crystal ball, but in the pawn world, everyone's got this expectation that, it's going to hit the fan and people are going to be running into the pawn shops, pawning their goods, pawning their stuff. But yet I'm in San Diego, and Vito, I'm sure you see this in your market. The real estate market is booming. My neighbor just sold her house. She listed it for $850, sold it for $955 cash offer. Houses are selling for, insane amounts of money. People are buying more product in the stores. What's actually happening in the economy today when it comes to dollars and cents?
Yeah, I know, it's so funny. So if you talk about this time a year and a half ago, I was on there talking about, well, all the economic indicators, even pre-pandemic, was that we were going to face some kind of downturn and a recession, not because of the pandemic, but we did see companies take a hit because they've been running a debt for so long, competition came in through, and we did see the market kind of recorrect itself. Then there is this, fluff. I mean, fluff meaning where there's some businesses, and I know everyone in the room who's listening to this knows, there's just some businesses who go, well, this company has not been making money for years. They should not be around, but extra help and those kind of help it uplift. So where those industries should have struggled and closed quicker, they didn't. And they're still alive and they're still kind of pushing forward. And I think, Yigal, you were talking about, like, when is the market going to crash? When is it you're going to feel maybe people can't pay mortgages anymore in the future, is when all this, sugar high, I guess, will settle. Do I think the question becomes, like, is everyone going to be running in to the pawn shop to be able to start selling? I mean, if we've seen anything in the last year, it's pretty resilient. Are we going to see some kind of correction? Yeah, I think we will. The question really becomes how deep, right? How deep will that go to that degree? And I think I always look at it this way. We've seen something in the last 12 months of, like, well, there's a lot of opportunity, right? I would flip it the other way for the pawn industry and those who are watching this, is that there's an opportunity and there's a segment of people that you're not touching. That, yes, you still got your core, but there's an opportunity of that segment of folks that don't know who you are, and more importantly, you can make their lives easier, right? They may be on that borderline, right? There is, I know we're talking about the middle class, but those who need the money, those who don't need the money, the middle, those who you would be able to help give a little more breathing room. To me, that's an interesting conversation, because I think that is where we're going to see in the next 12 months to 24 months, because they're the indicator of where the economy is going to go, right? Which way are they going to be resilient behind it? So, I mean, those are just patterns that I see overall here in the US, but also globally. I think you see of how people becoming more efficient in general with whatever they do, from healthcare. We're talking about healthcare, how that's an old industry endeavor. It never really moves that quickly. Oh boy, you've seen them move very quickly in the last 12 months, and all of a sudden anything is possible. And I think that's for any industry, whoever industry, whatever you're on, they're a good example of going, when forced, you have to move. Let's not get in that situation.
Love that, man. You also let's touch on this real quick. You talked about a growing middle class, right? You talked about how the middle class is the indicator in itself. Tell us a little bit about that growing middle class, what you're seeing when it comes to, the lower class when it comes to financial, is kind of what the pawn shops, is kind of like the pawn shop customer, the people who always need money, check to check. You're actually in the stores right now. What are you seeing when it comes to the people who actually need money, who are living paycheck to paycheck? What are they going
Yeah.
through at the moment? And then if Ryan can touch on that growing middle class.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Yugal, because the last, if you want to call it recession or downturn in the economy that we had the San Francisco Chronicle came in and they wanted to do an article, and I said, you can do the article as long as you stay in the store and hang out for at least half a day. I don't want you just having a preconceived notion, writing your story and going. So they did come in and they stayed. They ended up staying the entire day and loved it. They interviewed customers, talked to customers, and really got one of the best feels for it ever. So to get back to your question, there was that in that last turn, what we ended up seeing was more of that fringe customer that Ryan's talking about. We have our core customer that is living from paycheck to paycheck or month to month and comes in all the time. And it's funny because the reporter, not funny, but interesting, the reporter asked that customer, said, well, how's this, recession affecting you and feeling right now? And they said, it doesn't really affect me at all. I'm always paycheck to paycheck. This is how I go. So this is normal for me. And when the economy turns down or when it turns up, I'm already in the place that I'm at. So it was that next little level that's on that bubble above that we started seeing. We started seeing more middle class customers come through the door. And to relate that back to today, I think that's going to be the same thing. There's a word out in the pawn community right now, Ryan, called the pawn tsunami. So they're feeling that everything went out to the sea, but it's building and building and building is going to hit this huge influx of people coming in looking for money, and they just don't know when it's going to happen. So I don't know yet, Yuval. We haven't seen the turn back yet. The retail sales have been good, and they've been a different clientele than we've seen before. Typically, our clientele is our same customer base, so the same people that are borrowing money are buying our items. In this new economy, this new world for the last year, we are seeing new buyers, new people coming in and buying from us. But on the pawn side, I don't know yet. It's going to be interesting if it is our same customer base come rushing back in when they need school clothes and all this stuff that's going to come back, or is this going to be a new middle class, upper lower class, middle class that are going to be coming in to see us? I just haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. So maybe Ryan will have a better forecast on that.
Vito, you mentioned something that I want to call out, though. I mean, when people talk about inclusion, about different classes, the pawnbrokers are including the community, right? And you said something about paycheck to paycheck. You all have been very popular because you have always been in the community. You've been there from day one, right? You built that loyalty. Guess what other big banks and other companies are trying to do? They're trying to build that financial inclusion of products to face, but it doesn't touch, right? It doesn't have that reach. They're still trying to figure out what that is. And I think that's something that I think every group or anybody wants to be a part of, inclusion of genuine included. Like, I can go to your store and go for years. Vito, you mentioned something about 3 generations of people come through your store, right? And I think that's and tied to the middle class. What I like to see global trends, meaning like I try to break down things that are happening in other countries and see how it compares to the U.S. And if you look at let's pick China for example, the luxury market in the second hand, right? It's not a small business. It's $1 billion business. And I'm talking about the authentic stuff. So Gucci, Coach, secondhand selling online on legitimate sites, right? So people can buy. And it's become a lot larger, where it's become so large that the brands that used to provide some resistance are no longer doing that. And I think that stigma, as I was talking about, what does a stigma mean? Like, going to the pawn shop, does that mean that you failed? No, right? I mean, that's, and I'm not saying that's what you all are seeing, but I think when you think about the mass public, right, that is a stigma that happens. And that was a stigma for secondhand in general. So now I'm telling everyone here going, guess what? The luxury market secondhand is a booming business trending up. It's almost like an oxymoron. I'm going, wait, what? And it doesn't matter what your class is, right? I mean, it's a status symbol. And what does that mean for the the pawn industry, it means that it makes your life easier to educate what you do. It's easier to be able to be more inclusive. Those who've done it right, they've done the hard work. You've got the trust and loyalty. You've been consistent for years. Like, you can't buy that, no matter what you try to do. And so, for me, I think, I know, I get that we're waiting. I mean, I guess waiting for a rush back, but I think the rush back is a little bit different, right? Because cash is, and I think because of this, we don't know what the variables are going forward. If there's anything we've learned outside before the pandemic, there's trade wars, there's all these things that currencies go, the Turkey currency went away, went down, and it affected the rest of the world. Like, we can't plan those things, and they have a detrimental effect. And so, like, whenever I get that question about what are you going to see in the 6 months, 12 months, I can see what I think is normal. I think if there's a light end of the tunnel, I would like to see that. But I also have been experienced to know that there's a lot of road bumps now more than ever, unfortunately. And I think how you stable your business and stable your pieces to it is important.
I think Vito came up with something very, he said that the middle class is coming in to buy. And then Ryan, you piggybacked saying that the middle class is the one who's going to be, shifting the economy up or down. I think pawnbrokers today, instead of waiting for stuff, if they can market and advertise to that middle class to sell more, to become better retailers and not just pawnbrokers, I think there's a big difference. You can have a wave of money coming in, because what I'm seeing today is that middle class person who bought the house for $700,000 5 years ago and now had to upgrade to a $1.2 million house, and this is San Diego. Whoever's in Arkansas is like, what? $1.2 million, right? Is having to rethink about, well, do I go buy that tool new at Home Depot, or do I go buy it at the pawn shop? Do I buy that guitar for my daughter who's trying to learn at online, or do I go to the pawn shop and buy it used? So I think that the economy might be flipped a little bit, but it's up to us as pawnbrokers, like you said, Ryan, with the showing the genuine trust and transparency, because we're in the community. If we're able to go out of our norm when it comes to marketing, we'll make a lot more money out of the pawn industry itself.
And you talk about the U.S. economy. Why do you think people are putting money into SMEs, small, medium enterprises? Why do you think it's why? It's because it needs to prop up the economy. Why are people talking about financial inclusion? It needs to prop up the lower middle, lower class. So then the GDP can go up. Then everyone can do well. And I think the last piece that I want to mention, which people are looking for easy and convenient, and obviously trust. So if you can fill that for those things, doesn't matter what you sell, unfortunately, right? Because everyone's selling something online, in person. And I think having that ability to have an answer to that, and then have a quality piece always behind it. I think you make someone's life easier. And I think that's what I think when you see trends on just behaviors or shopping, even not to go to this point, even grabbing money, they go into banks because of trust. So they want to deposit checks, want to get checks easier. They want to be able to go into process and get it fast, in and out if they come in. They want that aspect. And I think in anything we do, it seems like that's been the pattern.
Yeah, love that. Let's talk about it real quick. Vito, do you want to say something on that?
No, I was agreeing, yeah. And the point that he was talking about, the opportunities. So with these new sales, I was saying before, of a clientele base that we hadn't seen before, those are perfect marketing opportunities, because they can also be pawn customers as well. Yeah,
100%. Love that. Let's talk about this, Ryan. The Gen Z market, the millennials, pawnbrokers. I remember last year, before the pandemic hit, they kept on talking about how, we don't know how to deal with these millennials. We don't know how to deal with these Gen Zers. They don't have the same work ethic. They don't want, the same job description. What are you seeing when it comes to, those age categories and their spending habits?
Well, no matter if you like it or not, what I'm about to tell you, they're the generation that's changed everything. And I think you got to get to know the generation first, right? And I think having labels of, they're not loyal or they don't work hard, that's not really true. They may be loyal to more than one brand. They stay very loyal to multiple brands as long as you don't mess with them. And when it comes to working hard, if their values and passion relies on the thing that they do, they will take less. They will pay more for something that they believe in over something that they don't. And so, yeah, that's going to get a lot of people mad for those companies who don't evolve. They don't connect because they want to connect. And I think their consumer behavior patterns are relevant onto Wall Street today. Like, you can't ignore that people are now talking about companies, environment, social, corporate governance, ESG. And those who don't know, if you just Google search it, you'll see it's like the buzzword in the last couple of years, because companies have now had to come up with some kind of metrics about what are they doing for the environment, what are they doing for their employees, because people are spending their dollars based, some of them, and especially in that specific category. Well, I'm going to go spend my money in a company that I believe in values, or I'm going to go volunteer my time. What are you doing for the overall good? And I think that generation in Gen Z specifically can really sniff out the fakeness, right? And I think that's part of what getting back to the opportunity is that, there isn't there, no matter if you're a legacy company or if you're a startup, they treat you equally, and you have a chance to be able to be in with their consumer behavior habits. Now, they're not trying to influence others, but guess what? They're influential. Because they've influenced the way other generations above them and behind them have give people voices, question things. Healthy, obviously gone more healthy too, that people are talking about. I don't want people taking, well, they're the generation that's changed all of this. They're the generation who's put the money behind their mouth because there's more of them. And they've done it together. And so if you're an airline, and then let's be honest, social media has been a tool that generation and other generations have been using. So your voice is now being heard. People can, share it by themselves, and people can decide. And so I think, I feel like those who are not on the, who are talking about it now, you have an opportunity to catch up. But if you look at the behavior of major companies, your favorite brands, just take a look at it. See how their messaging and how their product has changed over the last 5 years. And if you see how 10 years, forget about it. You're going to see a different brand of the associations, what they look at, what the companies have been partnering with. It's not that hard anymore to see it.
You talked about sustainability, right? That we can touch on. I know that Vito, when we had this conversation on Friday, it kind of like opened our eyes and our mind. My brother and I opened a Cashco. I think it's probably like 10 years ago now. The first building, it was the first and only green certified pawn shop in the nation, and we were pushing out that we sell, green jewelry. So, but you mentioned metrics, and if we would have put down the fact that 1 ounce of gold takes 2 gallons of water to make, and because we've sold X amount, we've saved 500 gallons of water on this earth, I think it would have driven in more traffic. And before we started jumping on here, Ryan, Vito also was like, man, that sustainability thing. So Vito, kind of tell me what you thought when that came up, and then Ryan will talk more about pawn shops and sustainability and how we can market to these generations with that more sustainable concept.
No, you're going, when he brought that up on sustainable businesses, both of our eyes are like, yeah. And if we saw it back then, but we didn't. I don't think you and I really understood the magnitude of it. We were doing a lot of it just because we also believed in it, but then we also knew that our customers would enjoy it too, and that was something that I started doing too. Was trying to figure out, how back at that time was I going to compete, trying to sell previously owned goods, gently used, all these different things. And one of the things that we did come up with was this sustainable product, that we're not having brand new items being made, but if we knew those metrics to be able to tell our clients and local government and the world, but it would have been a deal changer, because it's not only for our customers to see, as you know, Yigal, it's our officials, our officials, that we're a regulated industry, Ryan. So a lot of times we do want to pivot, change, and move very, very quickly. But because we're a regulated industry with different laws that we must follow, we can't do it as quickly sometimes as we need to, and we need to get bills passed to do so. And so the more that the public sees us and as these sustainable businesses, the more likelihood they will help us fast stream these bills that need to get passed so that we can do so. So it's important all the way around in this full circle about that. And so when you said sustainable business, if that can become, we truly are more than a bank. Even if we get out of the not just sales, because we always have two hats that we wear. We wear our sales hat, and then we loan our sales of money hat, our pawn hat, loaning money. And so if the world sees us as a sustainable business, pawn shops are the ultimate sustainable bank because we are inclusive. Our clients can have a gold Rolex given to them by their grandfather, need some cash, but do not want to get rid of that heirloom. And they could walk over to the bank and ask for a loan. And if they don't have a good credit score, they're not going to get any money. And so it doesn't matter. They can come to us. We're totally inclusive. And so the sustainable part is extremely important for the rest of the community, our customers, our potential customers, and local officials and state and federal officials to really, if that starts becoming a buzzword and they start including us instead of excluding us, it's going to be huge for us because it's real, it's honest, and it's true. And one thing, I'll go back to you, Ryan, but you had just said about transparency and businesses having to really walk the walk now because this new generation is holding them accountable. We're really seeing it because before they could just put a 30-second ad on the Super Bowl commercial and they would be good, but if they're not doing what they're saying in that ad, they're saying they're being globally this and all that, and then all of a sudden on YouTube somebody videotapes them spilling oil into the water or whatever they're doing, they're going to be held accountable, and they're not going to get those people to use their product. And it was interesting you said about this generation willing to take less to work for somebody that they respect, and it's not always about the money for this generation, and that's really interesting. You can elaborate more on that.
I can quickly attest. quickly attest to that. My brother-in-law, who is in the construction field, he's an engineer, and he got offered a job with a company that had a better culture for less. He got offered a second job for more money at like this big global conglomerate market, which is not known to have a great culture, and he opted for less money just because they gave him more time off. He believed in what they believed. So I could totally attest to that. Ryan, take it away, my friend. What do you think about?
Well, I mean, I've been seeing this for years where even big law firms and managing partners would come to me and go, yeah, I can't get these fresh out of attorneys out of school anymore, and just give them checks because they're asking me these questions about volunteer hours and they didn't know how to deal with it. And I think part of that is, and that's been going on for many, many years. And I think that's what you're seeing now, right? Industries that used to get away with, well, come work for us, work for all these 80 plus hours, even the iBanking areas, like people are starting to push back just a tad. For the audience real quick, when we're talking about metrics about sustainability with Yigal and Tony, I'm going to go back out to the screen a little bit, Yigal, so I can see your reaction. When I was talking about metrics and sustainable business, both Vito and Yigal were like, wait, we do that already. And I'm like, well, do you this is what others are doing and talking about, but we don't tell anybody. I'm like, you need to tell people because people don't know what you're doing. And ultimately, when you look at, hip trends or whatever you want to call them, this circular economy is something that is talked about from the UN to whatever you want to talk about globally. And to see both their faces kind of go, but we do this. We do this already. And I think it's an important conversation because you are a part of that sphere that people can see. And sometimes, some people may not care, which is fine, right? Some people come in, they don't care about the story. But when you go to airports now, when you go buy food, you go, oh, this food is, fed from here, grown from this city. There's a story behind all those things. Yeah. Well, guess what? I am certain there's so many stories sitting in your shop right now that some people will really, really relate to. And I remember that the reason why I feel so confident, because I remember when it was happening to airports about locally sourcing products, and people are like, no one's going to pay more money for locally sourced products because it's more expensive, right? Because they don't have a big chain behind them. But guess what? Now you start to see all the airports, all the local brands getting into the airports versus some of the national brands. And why is that? It's because it's the consumer driving the airport to change. Don't get it twisted that it was the airport that are wanting this, right? And maybe some, but not all of them. And I think that's where the change is being forced. But I mean, as Vito mentioned, the ultimate, circular economy lives in your doors, it seems like. And it's something that is very interesting to portray a story on certain items where I think there are people who care about it.
Here's a question for you. Oh, sorry, you all. I got one quick question. Is that, does social economics come into play here? Will a lower social economic group, even in this same Gen X though, so we're talking about the Gen X's and the millennials, how much does social economic groups play? So, okay, so you got an upper social economic groups that are in college and have more money and have more education when it comes to, the books and knowing the global economy, versus a lower social economic level that isn't as highly traditionally educated. Are they going to have those same feelings?
That's a great question. And it's funny. I think they will. And a part of it is if you just turn on, here's the word content. Content is, I say content is everything. And then you're like, well, content, what are you talking about, Ryan? Content is what? People watching, TV. And I mean, no, it's more than TV, Vito. You're the people where they go shop and brand and buy companies that they are affiliated to, they work at, they're pushing content every day. They're pushing that knowledge every day. So if they're not, that's why education system is looking to be challenged, is because people are getting education or other ways and other aspects. I don't mean education just as a certificate. I'm talking about education of like what's going on, where do you get your news from, where are you learning from, and there's more access points to all classes now, which is great because you want everyone to be educated in some ways. But why I'm saying that is there is this, companies have decided to take on aspects. Like if I said cybersecurity 5 years ago, I'm not sure that many people will really understand. Now, when I say cybersecurity, someone now knows what that means and why, from where, not from school, right? Someone's talking about it within and to your point, I think what you're mentioning is, well, maybe their circle doesn't talk about it. That's true. But when you turn on your Twitter page or Facebook page, there's something or some brand or somebody talking about it. And I think that there is this aspect of, at least there's knowledge that is going, it's not completely dark. And then to your point, then it becomes a sphere of is there need to be more education? And I'm hoping NGOs like financial literacy, Vito, there needs to be more about it. We know it's a problem, and it's a problem. It needs to start at a young age. And so it doesn't matter when they get older, it doesn't matter where you fall in the income bracket, that you've got those basic skills. Right. And I know maybe that's not the question you asked me, Vito, but I wanted to go down that route because guess what? If someone walks into your pawn shop, you are the education for finance, for loan. Like that might be the first time anyone knows what a loan is. Like, what does the interest rate look like? What is what are the consequences behind a contract being signed? Guess what? You're teaching them for the first time.
Right.
Right.
Like,
and I think
most
go
customers,
ahead, Vito.
Yeah, a lot of customers don't even know that a pawn is a loan. And they go, oh, the pawn's a loan, the loan's a pawn. It's similarly, we get a little jaded because sometimes we think that, some of the customers, they get all their news or their proportion of news from playing Grand Theft Auto, YouTube videos, and TMZ, right? So that's where all the news is coming from. But to answer your point, we are the educators. Yugal's brother is a great example of that. And Morris at Cashco Pawn said that he was creating a program, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, Yugal, where he was having his customers come in and he'd have resume writers that help them write a resume and develop resumes. And he is helping them get these skills and understand these things. Like you said, understand what APR is, understand how to actually read the contract. I had going on 4 generations of customers now, and we had a large gypsy population back in the 80s that would come through, and we taught them how to write their name. and taught them how to read the contracts. And so there is an educational part that we do in the stores right now. But yeah, so that was the point I was making is, and I don't know if we know the answer. It kind of sounds like we hope we can help them get that level, but there may be a difference, but it's going to be a similarity, more similar than different, no matter what the social economic level is, even if they are getting their news from Grand Theft Auto, because as we know, they pay for product placement spots on there.
And I think, and there's, and there's a lot of, I mean, I think there's more. I mean, when I say education, I mean, there's just a lot more not information. Let me rephrase it. There's a lot more information out there that people are absorbing than ever. Right, wrong, that there is a perspective and point of view for any generation that has it. Now, to your point, where you're taking that, or hopefully they're taking it from multiple different types of sources that they can kind of collaborate, is what I would say. But yeah, I mean, I think that's I think everybody's, we're kind of moving this way, and you see many of the, like, again, back to the financial, they're trying to teach it at the education at elementary school. Like, that I know I didn't get taught that at elementary school. And I think, like you said, there's one thing to put a Band-Aid around it. It's another thing to try to help change it. But I know we kind of went off a little bit, but sorry, you all.
It's all good. This is an open conversation, right? I do want to ask a question. First of all, I want to make it clear, I think a lot of times when pawnbrokers hear middle class, they think the 40 to 50-year-old married couple with 3 kids who have a house and are making 100K plus. There is that different middle class of these, this young generation of very smart, intelligent kids who are either banking on cryptocurrency. They made money selling on Amazon. They got a job with a big corporation making 85, K plus a year. So there's that younger generation of the middle class who is wanting to be more socially and sustainably relevant. And so that's kind of what we're talking about here. And then I also want to just tap into something I think is on everyone's tongue, but the pawn industry is very weary to talk about, which is cryptocurrency and blockchain, right? Now more than ever, pawnbrokers have always been a cash business. What I mean by cash business is customer brings in an item, we hand them cash. Customer hands us cash, we hand them their item. Now with Venmo and all of these apps, Cash App and Zelle, and it's a cashless society. What do you think is going to happen to printed money coming up, and how do you think that's going to affect the brick and mortar stores?
That's a great question, because if you look at the fintech world, like financial technology, the payment industry is on fire. I mean, everybody's trying to create a seamless route, again, underneath the perspective that it's inclusive to everybody, but really that you can have the immediate payment to payment, that even wire transfers take longer than Zelle, now. And I think part of that, I think, and you see PayPal, right? PayPal has created a wallet where that you can buy certain cryptocurrencies underneath their platform. And I don't know if you would have said that 10 years, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, the cryptocurrency conversation is probably more like which ones will be backed by the institutions. I think that's more of a question for me about which is the one that will be. And then the question becomes for the pawn industry: should you go down that route? You've got the cash. How do you distribute cash to your people faster, right? I mean, that's more of a question mark, right? How do you do that? So does that mean that if people want hard cash right then, but why I'm talking about the trends, like digital wallets, for example, if you look at Asia, is like 60 to 70% is being used. Here in the US, it's a lower adoption. I think it's like 15 to 20%. So it's still very new, actually. So it's not going to change overnight. But the way I would go relook at what the cash business is, it's a money business, right? And can you be the one-stop shop for the money business? I know the idea becomes, well, is cash going to, I think what you're asking me, or most people try to ask, is cash dead? Is the dollar bill going to go away? And unfortunately, there's patterns that people like to use cash. They don't use credit card because for their own reasons, they won't have debt. There's some people who only use credit card. I think the focus, what I now see, it's limitless, it's seamless. Whatever it is, what's hot now is buy now, pay later. That is and it's again funny because this industry's been doing it for a lot longer, but now it's back into the major retailers are providing that option of that aspect. And so I think the ability to get the money to people quicker, you can't beat obviously face-to-face cash, right? That is instant gratification, instantly to that piece. If you can create that technology, which is occurring now, they're still looking for that, right? That hasn't gone anywhere. Of like, well, it's okay. You can send me the cash in 4 days. No, I need the cash right now. So if you don't figure that out, then that's a little bit different. So I mean, I think receiving payments in those aspects, I think it has changed. The things that you have to worry about is to make sure it's secured and ensuring, but again, I'm talking to industry who always knows it, meaning about when they take loans, what they, like, I'm not telling you anything that you already don't know. I'm telling you what everyone else is starting to do to try to figure, and they're not trying to catch up with the pawn industry. They're trying to catch up with what? The consumers. This is driving the consumers that are wanting this. I know it's funny. I just thought about when, we talk about this, how there is so many similarities, not just in retail, but in a lot of different industries and how they're thinking about, the banks are asking the same question, right? Just like you are. Are people going to come into banks? Are people going to use cash? Is ATMs, relevant? There's startups that I've come across who are trying to make it irrelevant, right? If they get, they're trying to, change even the international currencies. When you go to different countries, those transaction fees are now getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And again, the idea behind of all this is I just want to pay for something and you pay it. And it instantly happens, so everybody's happy. And if you think about that and work yourself backwards to go, which I know you both do, that's the change. That's the change that's happening.
Love it. That's awesome. Love that. The first thing that comes to mind, Vito, is, as a pawn shop, are we taking, Cash App, Venmo, or we make it easier for the pawn industry? I know you use the mobile app that some software providers have. Some pawn shops are still thinking like, oh, we're only cash basis. So love that way of thinking. I want to touch up on one more thing before we kind of wrap it up. I know that pawnbrokers are busy. They want to get back to the counter and do those transactions. But it's something that you talked about, which is transparency and within the community. How can we as pawn shops, and Vito, I'd love for you to hear more on this from you. It's how can we be more community-based with that transparency? So we've got that trust and we take away the stigma of that pawn shop is trying to screw me, because I had a client who did a questionnaire at his store, and out of I think it was 133 people he asked, over 70% of the people said that the first thing I think about when I walk into the pawn shop is, am I going to get screwed or not? Right? So even though I'm coming in to buy, pawn, sell, I've been a customer with you for a long time. The thought process is, are they going to take advantage of me? How much am I going to leave here with the upper hand? So how do we build that trust, that transparency within our community? So Vito, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, the used car effect, right? They're put right up there as soon as you walk onto a used car lot, your guard's up. I'm not going to let this guy get me, right? And so that's what we're contending with. We do not want to be compared to the used car lot when they walk through that door. I've also spoke to, and I can't give you a specific number percentage wise, but if you ask your customers when they forfeit, when they expire a loan, when they haven't paid and picked it up, many of them, if not 90% of them, it's not so much that it was an heirloom, that it was grandpa's item they left you. It was truly, they didn't feel they got a good value. They didn't feel they got paid enough to leave that item. So they're more mad that they didn't get enough money than that they actually lost a specific item or not. So again, you've got to start really going back to what I talked to Tally Mack about, customer concierge service, customer needs, filling their needs, and that goes back to like how do you need your money? Ideally, if we can get through all of the legal aspects on how to do it, and if that customer wants $500 in cash, green U.S. currency in their hand, and then they want $200 ring, pair of earrings, and then the other $800 on a debit card or some type of electronic transfer card or whatever. Yeah, we want to be able to provide all the services that they can use. And it's sad that this is kind of a new concept. If you go back to, I don't know if you know this, Ryan, but the pawn shops have been said that they are the second oldest business in the world. And it was to help pay for the first oldest business. And they needed it immediately. They couldn't wait till tomorrow to get it. They wanted it today. So it's a slow process. Stephen Foster from Fresno Coin did an amazing seminar at one of our I think it was California Pawnbrokers Association conferences, and he was talking about his return policy. And I can tell you for years, we had a big red stamp that we put on everything we sold. No refunds, no returns. We got a door policy. When that door hits you in the ass, that warranty's up, and because we were worried about everybody screwing us, right? Isn't that what your dad told you? Everybody, all our customers, just like they're worried about us screwing them. We're worried about all the customers, messing and trying to take advantage of us. And Stephen just gave such a great seminar on how misleading and wrong that is for a business, and how when you turn that corner and really start embracing the customers, they'll then embrace you back and you will sell more. You will have a few of those ones that are, but they're the minority if you set your business up correctly. And let me know if that's how you see it also, right? Because again, when we are dealing in, again, there is a element, social economic level, there is certain things that we do try to differentiate ourselves. We are not this island where we are so unique from any other business, but we definitely have, not all businesses have such a cross section that runs through. I mean, I guess grocery stores and everything do, but in our business here, we think that we're different, and so maybe we're not. So it's just our own selves, right? You all say we're not. You're right, and you're right, and it's our own health. It's our own self. A lot of us pawnbrokers that are still in the transition of changing that see it, but it's definitely something that I think pawnbrokers really need to acknowledge, and you all's really been out there, and I think you are saying the same thing, Ryan. Is we need to acknowledge that we're not unique in that aspect, and that we really need to up our customer service and our public perception value.
Right, take it away.
Yeah, I mean it's actually not being unique. It's like for me, the boards I sit on, every industry there's an intersection. I think we're all, so my opinion is that we're all interrelated. And I know now everyone goes, oh, that makes sense. I've been saying it for years. No one still doesn't catch on. Like it doesn't catch on because everyone's got their blinders on, and that's fine. I'm not saying I know everything, but I saw it because I work for different industries. And so now when I sit on these boards and especially give these keynotes, to me, it stands out like night and day that, wait a minute, like, this industry, let me take an example, just hearing you two talk. I'll give you a quick example. The energy industry. You're talking about transparency and those kind of things. What I think that again, quick thought, hopefully the pawn industry audience doesn't hate me for this, but like, the energy, there's companies out there that are going to door to their consumer and educating them about using less energy. Think about what I just said. They are going door to door to have them use less so they can lose less top line. You're like, what? Why does that make sense? Is because two things. They're trying to be more solar. They're trying to get people to be educated in a way that they also trust them, right? And say, hey, here's how you need to be more efficient. Turn this light off, turn this off. And I think hopefully I don't get trolled for saying this. In your industry, I think like you were talking about, like when you walk through, hey, what does this mean? Here's what you can really get value if you go somewhere else. And if it's not your business that they're selling at, hey, be careful for these things when you sell it to other places. You're helping me tell me maybe you shouldn't sell it to me, that you should hold on to it for this thing. Like you don't, like that goes so long of being transparent, Vito and Yigal, you're mentioning, then you don't get into these squabbles that they feel like that aspect. And when you mentioned the used car salesman, again, no offense to that industry,
sure,
but it's a bad experience. It's become such a bad experience. Guess what? CarMax, these startups where people come now to your door, no haggle. They'll pick up your car you can sell a car on the app. You don't even have to go to anybody. You don't have to talk to anybody. And you could do it that way. So let me tell you something. That means what? That industry is getting shifted.
Yeah.
Or more importantly, the way that used car sales, tactics have been used in the past, I assure you they've changed. At least some sort of people, because people want it. And I think that transparency, and that's why I think you see great sales folks, I think, are those who are just transparent and just lay it out. And I know, Vito, you've mentioned, and I've talked to you multiple times, and I've been in your store in the past, and I've seen you interact with people. I never got a sense that you're trying to push a sale. You're just saying, hey, here's what you should think about best aspect for you, right? And it doesn't feel that aspect, but you can't fake that. That has to be consistent. And I think that is something that we all as humans can work on. But more importantly, if you're trying to build a business of that culture, every employee has to believe in that. So no matter how they interact with you at any point, they come in the store, they call you on the phone, it has to be the same. Oh, you're calling to sell this? Hey, did you think about this? Did you think about that? It's like, what, are you telling me not to sell it to you? I was like, I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm just telling you here are the things you should watch out. I know you're laughing, Vito. I don't know if you're going to disagree with what I say or not, but I just feel like that transparency goes a long way, that you can't put a dollar amount to it.
You're 100% right, and that so we do that, and I'm just honest to a fault, and I can't help it. Like you said, sometimes they walk away, but what we do is we accent the positive of why they should sell it to us. And so I can give you a good example that happens hundreds of times over and over. Like when somebody's trying to sell a wedding ring, the first, we start a dialogue first, and we really start interacting. And before I even look at the ring, I don't even pick it up when they come in, because I want to have this dialogue so that they know that I'm not, eyeballing and going, oh man, I want that BBS 2.5 carat diamond right there. But we have the dialogue and ask what their needs are. What are they trying to accomplish here? Is it the money? Do they need the money, or they just want this gone? And then I give them some options, and I tell them, we can take that out of that setting that has that meaning and memory that you are trying to get rid of, and I can put it into a pendant for you. There's different options. We can reset this thing for you. But if you do choose that you want to sell this item, then I can go through the process with them and get them a good offer, solid offer on that stone. Now, with the diamonds and stuff, I feel quite comfortable, but I do let them know, even on the other end, if they're trying to get more than that, that on this level, on a wholesale level, I'm giving them what I believe to be a very fair top offer on this item. But if they're trying to get a retail price for it, then I give them the options. I said, you can, use eBay, you can use Etsy, you can use all these other ways of selling it on a retail level. You're now competing with me, because that's what I also do. And again, it's a time of essence thing. If you have the time and the energy and wherewithal, and that's what you would like to do to go make that extra money on this item, I encourage them to. And not just with the wedding ring. People come in all the time with an item and they go, I looked it up on eBay and I see that it's going for $500, this tool. And they go, can you give me, $500 for it? Then we have to go through the education process, because most of the time people say, what do you do all day? And I truly believe I educate. Most of the time I'm educating all day long, and then giving options to my customer, and they can choose what they want to do. And I explained to him how to actually go through and appraise utilizing auction sites or eBay and other parameters, because most people don't even know how to appraise it properly, because they see that it was listed for a price, but they don't know what it actually sold for. So I go through that whole thing to show them the difference between a listing price and the sale price. And then we have to go through to find out, was there only one of them that sold, or was there multiple? So all the process. So after I educate him, now he can make the decision on, does he want to sell it to me once I come up with a price, or does he want to take that time? And like you said, some people want the money right away, but as long as they understand, I tell them, it will be sitting out here, and I am going to make a profit to give you a nice, clean place to come, and a safe place to do your transaction in. And it does come at a cost, but it's not a fair cost, and, there can always be somewhere lower, there can always be somewhere higher. But do you feel you're being treated fair, and you're having it's filling your needs and stuff? So those are the things that we definitely go through. And I think that's what you were talking about, right?
Love it. Yeah. Listen, we could talk for hours. I think it's this is a great place to wrap this up. First and foremost, I want to thank Ryan. Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for giving time to the pawn industry. If you want to go find Ryan, you can check him out at Ryan Patel Global on Twitter. I know you're very, very big in Twitter, right? Like that's kind of like the one platform.
LinkedIn, Twitter. It's interesting. Like I said, not to reiterate this, but we learn from a lot of different industries, and that's what I think. That's what I do real well is do that. So feel free to join any conversation. Anyone who's listening, you'll only get support from me. And I think I'm hoping that there's more awareness for the entire industry.
Love it.
Ryan, I want to thank you too. Yeah, I want to thank you, Ryan. Do you have any like quick tip to the pawnbroker? Any final word to give out to the pawnbroker world out here?
Well, hearing from both of you two, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to make you smile. You need to be better marketers. You need to be more concise with and show off the good things that you're doing, right? And like, Tony, you just mentioned all the things you did. I'm not saying go build a poster and get it viewed. This is what we do. But boy, there needs to be more of those stories, because it is very hard. People come into your doors at all kinds of crises in life. And unfortunately, you either recognize that or you don't. You want people to feel comfortable. And I think I look at it because, just hearing this customer service, customer experience, marketing has a part of that, and then executing off of that, and know that, you touch everyone's lives at different places. And I'm not saying you don't know that, but it makes you, it's just a different way of an experience. So you have the ability to, and there is a lot more opportunity than you think that are out there, that you are a part of the change. You're not as siloed as you think you are, and that you can have a place to compete in some of these new customers that you might not have a chance to in the past.
Love it. Thank you, my friend. Big thank you to Vito over at Pawnbrokers, helping pawnbrokers on Facebook. Check out his group. Tons of pawnbrokers there talking amazing stuff. And then if you want to connect with me, go to pawnconnect.io, download the app, come hang out, and let's have a conversation. Vito and Ryan, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for everybody who's watching. Let's have a conversation. Post below, comment, talk, yell at us if you'd like to. We're here. We're here
only yell at Vito and Yigal. Don't be yelling at me. I'm just an innocent bystander. But I appreciate you, Yigal, and it's great to be a part of your audience. This audience, it really is.
Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next time.